this video, I'm going to break down 5 powerful psychological reasons why some men don't post on social media, and why that silence isn't weakness, it's control. Here's what really separates the loud from the grounded, and why the men who don't post often end up owning the room without ever saying a word. 1. Detachment from external validation. Let's start with the truth most men don't want to face. Validation is the modern addiction. From the moment we wake up, we reach for approval. We scroll for it, post for it, and measure our worth through digital applause. We crave evidence that we're enough, that someone's watching, someone's impressed, someone cares. Why? Because deep down, every man wants to be seen. But here's where it gets twisted. When the world teaches you to equate visibility with value, you start living for performance, not for peace. Every post becomes a subtle plea. Please see me. And the tragedy is, the more validation you get, the emptier you become, because it never lasts. It's like trying to fill a hole with smoke. The more you grab, the less you hold. Now, the men who don't post, they've already confronted that emptiness. They've felt the hollowness that comes after applause fades, and they decided to opt out of the game entirely. Their silence is not withdrawal. It's emotional independence, the moment you stop asking for permission to exist. They no longer need to prove they're valuable because they live like it. They build in private. They grow without audience. And something powerful happens in that space. Their self-worth starts to anchor internally. Their confidence stops depending on feedback loops. Their mind stops waiting for validation to feel alive. That's what makes them steady. You can't manipulate a man who doesn't need to be liked. You can't control a man whose peace doesn't depend on public approval. He doesn't chase applause, he chooses alignment. But here's where most men fail. They mistake being seen for being significant. But the truth is, the man who no longer needs to be seen becomes the one people can't stop watching. 2. Observational dominance. Most men talk too much and notice too little. They scroll through life, reacting to everything, posting their opinions, debating strangers, following trends, chasing relevance. They're loud because silence terrifies them. They fear what they might hear if they stopped talking long enough to listen. But the man who doesn't post, he operates differently. He listens, he studies, he observes. He's not silent because he has nothing to say. He's silent because he's too busy understanding. Observation sharpens intuition. It's what allows him to see through performances, the fake smiles, the subtle insecurity behind loud confidence, the desperation in people's constant need to share. While everyone else is performing, he's decoding the psychology behind the performance. He sees who's trying to impress, who's trying to escape, who's quietly breaking. That's awareness most men will never have, because they're too busy performing themselves. And here's the beauty of it. Observation turns into foresight. He begins to read situations before they unfold. He can sense when something's off without being told. He doesn't need gossip. He can read energy. This is observational dominance, the calm awareness that comes from silence. It's what makes some men seem almost psychic, like they just get things. It's not magic, it's presence. And presence is rare in a distracted world. When you stop reacting to noise, you begin to notice patterns, and patterns reveal truth. That's how quiet men stay 10 steps ahead. And that's why this next point matters even more. Because awareness means nothing if you keep giving your energy to the same noise you've already seen through. 3. Energy preservation and digital minimalism. Let's talk about the resource most men waste without even realizing. Energy, not physical energy. Mental energy, focus, attention. The fuel that powers your ambition, creativity, and clarity. Every day, most men give it away, like loose change. They scroll endlessly, post mindlessly, engage in debates that mean nothing, compare themselves to strangers they'll never meet. And by the end of the day, they feel drained, not from doing too much, but from thinking about everything that doesn't matter. Social media is designed to keep you in that loop. It rewards distraction, not direction. It gives you dopamine for checking, not achieving. And every second you spend inside that cycle, your focus gets weaker. But the men who don't post, they've learned how to preserve mental power. They understand that attention is currency, and only a fool gives it away for free. They're not scrolling for stimulation, they're using silence as recovery. Every moment offline becomes a reset for the mind, a chance to reconnect with thought, emotion, and purpose. They don't need constant noise to feel alive. They create their own energy through stillness, through structure, through solitude. That's why they seem composed when others are anxious. They've learned to live without external stimulation. Their mind is trained for depth, not dopamine. When you stop leaking energy into every feed, you start feeling stronger in ways that are hard to explain. You think clearer, move slower, and act with precision. It's not about quitting social media. It's about mastering your relationship with it. Using it as a tool, not a trap. Most men use it to escape their reality. The disciplined man uses it to enhance his strategy. That's the shift. He's not anti-technology. He's just anti-distraction. He knows his focus is worth more than his followers. But here's what most men never realize. The man who controls his attention controls his destiny. Because once you decide what deserves your energy, the world stops deciding it for you. 4. Identity protection. There's a dangerous game most men play today, and they don't even know it's happening. It's the constant performance of identity. Every post, every caption, every filtered smile. It's a statement of who they want people to think they are. The grind never stops guy, the I'm healing guy, the look how happy I am guy. But underneath all of that, there's exhaustion. Because keeping an image alive costs energy, and authenticity always pays the price. We live in a world that teaches men to brand themselves instead of understand themselves. And that's why so many feel lost even when they look successful. They're building versions of themselves that exist only online. They've learned how to look strong, not how to be strong. But the men who don't post, they've seen through that illusion. They've watched others crumble under the pressure of maintaining appearances. And they've made a quiet decision. I will no longer trade my truth for attention. Their silence is self-respect. They're not hiding. They're protecting something sacred, their authenticity. Because when the world constantly asks, "Who are you?" the wisest answer sometimes is, "You'll find out when you meet me." They know that real confidence doesn't need confirmation. It shows itself in consistency, not captions. They don't need to announce their growth. You'll see it in how they move, how they speak, and what they no longer entertain. When you protect your identity, your life gets quieter, but heavier in meaning. You stop explaining your worth to people who can't measure it. You stop proving your value through optics and start living it through action. And here's something most don't realize. Every time you share something sacred, you dilute its power a little. Because the more eyes that witness it, the more energy it loses. Privacy isn't isolation. It's preservation. When your life stops being content, it becomes real again. You start experiencing moments for yourself instead of curating them for others. You reclaim ownership of your memories, your emotions, your narrative. And here's the part that most men overlook. Protecting your identity isn't about mystery. It's about mastery. Because the man who owns his story privately never fears losing control of it publicly. 5. Strategic invisibility. There's a reason some men become unforgettable, and it's not because they're always seen. It's because they understand timing. They understand the power of not showing up everywhere. We're living in an age where men believe they must always be visible to stay relevant. They fear being forgotten if they stop posting, stop performing, stop proving. But here's the paradox. The more you appear, the less people value your presence. Familiarity breeds invisibility. And the men who understand that start to master something far more powerful: strategic absence. Strategic invisibility is not running away. It's retreating to rebuild. It's pulling back from the noise to gather strength, refine purpose, and come back sharper. It's knowing that silence creates curiosity, and curiosity amplifies presence. Every man needs that season where he disappears from the noise. Not because he's broken, but because he's becoming. You can't transform while performing. You need quiet. You need space. You need a stretch of solitude where nobody's watching, so you can grow without commentary. That's what men who don't post understand deeply. They know the difference between being forgotten and being focused. Their silence isn't absence, it's alignment. While others are busy posting progress, they're out there creating it. While others seek reactions, they're building results. And when they return, the difference is undeniable. Their silence made them unpredictable, and unpredictability is power. Because when people can't read your next move, they can't prepare for it. That's why the quiet man feels magnetic. His stillness holds tension. He doesn't chase relevance. He commands it by disappearing just long enough to make the world wonder what he's building next. And here's the psychological truth behind it. When you no longer fear being unseen, you start living authentically. You no longer need attention to feel alive. So your actions become pure again. No performance, no show, just intention. So, brother, when you see a man who doesn't post much, don't mistake his silence for weakness. He's not disconnected. He's disciplined. He's not invisible. He's intentional. He's not behind. He's building quietly. We live in a world where everyone's addicted to being seen, but few ever master the art of being centered. And that's what these men have learned. They've detached from validation, mastered observation, protected their energy, guarded their identity, and chosen invisibility with purpose. And in that stillness, they've found something rare: peace. Peace that doesn't depend on likes, followers, or approval. Peace that can't be taken away because it wasn't given by anyone else. That's the psychology of men who don't post on social media. They're not trying to escape the world. They're learning to live above it. So maybe it's time to stop shouting and start listening. Maybe it's time to move differently, quietly, strategically, purposefully. Because when the world gets loud, the man who stays calm becomes the one everyone looks for. And in a generation screaming to be noticed, the man who doesn't post ends up being remembered the longest.